Welcome everyone to the Mail Fuzz TV. I am Peter and that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Quantum Leap Season 1 Episode 4. It's called The Right Hand of God, October 24th, 1974. So just a couple of years after when the last one was set, and this one has a pretty convoluted premise in that Sam is a boxer who seems the story, there's a whole other element to it, but you could basically boil it down to Sam's a boxer who takes payoffs to throw fights, to take dives, and obviously the story is going to be no, he's here to correct that and not dive and just actually genuinely fight and try and maybe win the boxing match. But he's also raising money with his boxing for a nun so she can build a chapel. If I left anything out.
He's got a girlfriend.
Oh yes, they want to build a donut shop.
Yes.
Because I think she says the phrase jelly filled, glazed and sugar on top.
Glazed.
Yeah, but she says that
Sprinkles on top.
she says that like 6 or 7 times throughout the episode. So yeah, a lot going on here. So Tara, what do you think of The Right Hand of God?
Yeah, it's an alright one. Like, it's still a fun episode. I like the idea that if it is the big G that's doing this, for the show, that he's being punished right away for fixing something for himself in the previous episode. That because we don't know what is, what it is that's manipulating Sam and where he's going and for what reason. So if it is the big G, then he immediately sits down and gets punched in the face. You can't fix your own timeline.
Yeah, I didn't like this one as much as the last episode. I think it had a bit more like just downtime, I guess. There was some of the stuff where he's talking to the nun and they're talking about the chapel and why she wants to build the chapel, and she's getting to her depressing backstory.
Yeah, she's a little boring.
Yeah, so this just isn't as fun as the last episode. And not that they all have to be fun per se. They can be more dramatic. I think the back half of the first double episode, I think, did quite well with the dramatic side of things. I think this one just comes off a bit more dry, and maybe it's just because the boxing thing's a bit cliche as well. Boxers taking dives, for a payout. So
it's a 70s cliche, and this does take place in the 70s.
That is true. There's also some really blatant rip-off music of like the Rocky montage music.
Oh yeah.
To the point where the first couple
like
of notes sound the same, and then it sort of goes off into its own little thing to like be legally distinct.
I can't remember. It was something like that.
If it wasn't for the fact that they probably couldn't afford to like get a big location, I wouldn't have been surprised to see him run up some famous steps and do the pose. But yeah. Also, Al, continuing this trend of ridiculous outfits, he's got this gold, like two-toned jacket on with matching shoes. He's got gold shoes on.
Yeah. What a stud.
Yes. He actually has his own little subplot this episode, which I guess is going to be a thing going forward. We just hear him like complain about what's going on in his life, but this episode, his neighbour is working on his car like all through the night and keeping him awake. And that's kind of his running thing that he keeps complaining about. Rather than him having more lady friends, we take a break from that for a week, and he's complaining about his neighbour. But I did actually appreciate because the whole thing is like, all right, let's help you train. Like, let's do some shadow boxing because I'm a hologram, but I can still help you train. But he gets an actual trainer who I thought they did some decent setup with that character, like the trainer who doesn't want to work with him at first, but then when the crime boss or whatever the character is that comes in and says, "Now you're going to take a dive," he kind of mocks the trainer because he used to take dives, and you kind of get that his motivation is that he feels guilty about what he used to do, and that's why he wanted to quit being a trainer for Sam's character, because he's kind of sick of it now and doesn't want to be a part of that. But then when Sam's like, "No, I want to actually train. I want to actually try and win," he's like, "Okay, fine. This is my redemption story. Let's do it." Okay, so that was decent setup. Like that worked well enough. But the way he wins in the end, which is like Al actually like puts his hand through the opponent's head and says, "Now punch here now. Now punch here now." Like he just sort of goes that with his hands.
Yeah.
I that was an interesting visual, and I thought it worked. And I also appreciated that he still had to like win it properly to an extent after they tried to play a bit of a trick to win.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we'll get into the whole girlfriend thing in a minute.
Well, that's the thing. Like we had a sports one earlier in the first episode where he's playing baseball professionally and he has to like somehow win, but he's not an athlete like that. So how do you get a non-professional to win a professional sport? And it's kind of the same thing here. I don't really know how long Sam is on this leap, but I guess it's long enough to do some training and for, you know, the nuns to say, come live with us and we'll pay your rent until the fight. So I guess it has to be a decent amount of time that he's there training.
Yeah.
But then the whole Al storyline thing, like, is his car, the neighbor working on his car for a whole month or something? I doubt that, but
I feel like it actually only feels like a week, but you're right. Like, if you stop and think about the training of it, like, it has to be a bit longer.
Yeah, maybe it's only a week. I'm not sure. But I do think that the episode gets really good at the end. I do like the final fight. I love the stuff with Al, and he's jealous that Sam is getting help from somebody else and not him. Even though he's like, you know, he's the expert. He knows. Don't worry. Like, I got this. I got you, Sam. I know how to take care of this. I can teach you how to box. You know, and it's still Al showing up in the ring and doing, you know, his hologram stuff that allows him to win the fight.
Yeah. I mean, the trainer character was probably the one that I liked the most out of the characters in The Leap, just because I understood his story well enough that his motivation made sense to me. I thought the nun's backstory was just really overly, like, dramatic and a bit, you know,
sappy.
A bit sappy, yeah. It's a bit, I had to do anything in the street to survive, but then I was taken in by the nuns, and now I want to build a chapel in the worst part of town to be a beacon of hope for those in the surrounding area. You know, like, it's like, okay, all right, whatever.
Well, yeah, I think at this point, though, Sam does seem to think that God is the one that's doing this. So it does make sense for him and his character to be like, okay, I gotta do this. Like, she's building a church.
I think,
you know, I might have actually been sent here by God, so I gotta do it.
Yeah, the other thing, the sort of the crime boss dude who wants him to throw the fights, who's paying him.
Stockwell's older brother, by the way.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Like him. Like, I think he's like a necessary evil, but I actually do think the episode could be streamlined more to just be about the, you know, you could take out the he's earning money for a chapel. You could remove that from the episode completely and just focus in more on the actual build up to the fight, the motivations of the trainer. And I think, because one of the things that popped out in my head is when we sort of learn, like, you know, he's going back to his place, and, like, you know, this, the bodyguard dude comes up and says, or the henchman is like, hey, Mr. So-and-so would like to see you now. And it's like, oh, and he puts him into the limo, and he's really intimidated. And we learn in this scene, oh, boxers are taking I mean, we kind of knew anyway, because the first fight, like, Sam somehow wins.
Sam knocks out a guy, and we were like, wow, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Is it like the modern day quantum leap where he leaps into the guy, but he has the guy's body still, so every punch is like a pro punch?
No, he took a dive.
It's a little,
yeah. So it made sense once we learned, but what stuck out to me about this scene is that I'm like, oh, this is quite interesting that Sam's leapt into a character who I mean, not that the guy, I mean, like, the professor from last episode, I wouldn't say is like a pure likable character, but he was like goofy enough that you kind of it didn't matter. Whereas I feel like this character, it was like, there was a moment where I thought, oh, are we going to find out this guy's like a complete scumbag? Like, and I thought, oh, that'd be an interesting new thing to do this early on, is like have him jump into someone who is not worth, like, that person is not worth saving. He's not there to like fix their life. He's there to fix maybe someone else's life that this person affected or something like that instead. And it ultimately, though, it kind of it's more of the kind of the heart of gold thing, where, like, ultimately there's a lot of things around him that should be striving for him to make the right choice, and clearly this big mean boss man is like driving him into this, threatening to shoot him if he doesn't, you know, dive and stuff. So it's like, okay, he's still kind of sympathetic because he's kind of backed into a corner and whatever.
Right? Yeah. He just needs money.
Yeah. So. But it did make me kind of excited, though, for when, like, he's in someone who just flat out is irredeemable. I think that's interesting. I'm sure it'll happen.
I'm glad you're looking forward to it.
I'm sure it's going to happen. There's a sly little smile in your face right now that tells me that it's definitely happening.
What? It's almost like I have no poker face at all.
You do not. What are you talking about?
I know, I don't. That's why this was a horrible idea to invite me to do this.
I don't think that's a spoiler though. I think it was inevitable it'd happen eventually, but this is the first time I saw a hint of it maybe happening, and I was like, oh, I'm intrigued. So yeah, so the nun character not super into, although Sam seems to like her. So on top of a pregnancy fetish from episode 1, now he's got a nun fetish. So I don't know what to say.
Sam just loves the ladies. All right,
He does. Yeah, but he seems to like his stripper girlfriend in this the least.
Well, I mean, he just likes. He's a country boy, you know. The stripper thing probably comes off a bit strong, although he is very progressive about it.
Well, at one point,
Like, you're a working woman, you're a dancer. This is what you do.
Well, yeah, because I think it's just before he says that. So they're talking about what part of the plot, because the subject of streaking comes up, right? It's on the news at one point that someone streaks at like a ball game, and their idea is to have her streak during the boxing match to distract the opponent so he can knock him out. And it's like, okay, and like, because he's getting kind of close to the nun, like the girlfriend's like, oh, maybe you could ask sister, whatever her name is, sister Angela to do it. It's like, I can't ask that, she's a nun. It's like, oh, but you could ask a tramp like me to do it. And he's got this line that really stuck out to me where he says, no, you're not a tramp, you're a professional. I thought that really stuck out, that line to me. It was very
It felt a little empowering for her, though,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is what you do. This is what you're great at.
Yeah. The plan still revolved around making her strip down and run in front of people, which I thought,
Yeah. I mean, she kind of does that most nights anyway, but she could get arrested for it.
Yeah. I think it'd be okay if she suggested it. If she's like, no, I can offer this, I can do this. But the idea that the men in the room went, hey, you take your clothes off and distract them. It's just a little bit, I don't know, it's a bit sexist. It's a bit sexist.
They could have found a different way. Yeah.
Like I'm sure it would have been equally distracting if like a dude ran out naked.
Actually, honestly, the thing that I guess is a bit more problematic about it, like, I get that he had to do this fight to, like, I don't know, maybe do something for his own character. Like, maybe this guy, this boxer, always regretted taking the dive.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is like his way to turn it around. But, I mean, they made all their money by betting on a sure bet anyway, a sure thing on the fight going on television. Well, so like, he didn't really have to ask his girlfriend or fiance or whatever to streak.
Yeah, there's a reveal at the end that because I think you think they're betting on his fight earlier on in the episode. And then the reveal at the end is that the Muhammad Ali fight that's coming up, that's been mentioned on the TV a few times, is what they actually bet on, because Sam remembered what the results were and bet exactly what round it would end in, and so on and so on. And they make a lot of money at the end because of that, which is, yeah, you could argue the morality of that a bit, I suppose.
But it is, I don't know, it's probably more moral than asking a woman to streak.
Yeah. I mean, is anyone really upset that you're screwing the bookies a little bit out of some money? Because, like...
No, I don't think so. Not if it builds a church. I'm not religious, by the way, so...
Yeah. Oh, nor am I.
I don't think churches need more money.
We're both atheists.
Or more churches.
if anything, I feel like we have been in surprisingly good behavior so far with any references to this chapel plan.
Actually, when I never watched the show really originally, because I sort of thought it might have been a show about God. Like, maybe I had heard something about that and I just ignored it, or it's just a thing in the back of my mind, kind of like a Highway to Heaven or something. I think there's another show on that was popular. I mean, obviously Seventh Heaven was big, but I just don't. I think I always thought the show had something to do with like a Christian angle, and maybe that's the reason why I never really watched it growing up.
Yeah, I never had a reason why I didn't watch it. I'd heard about it just on the internet, on my nerddom, through the years.
I also don't really remember it being on television. Like, it's not a thing I just came across.
No, maybe not.
For reruns,
Yeah. So the question I have, though, is this the first episode where Sam had sex with someone in a leap? Now, we don't see it happen for sure, but there's a scene where the stripper girlfriend, you know, when he's saying he's like he has to leave or whatever, she says, "No, you're staying here," and she just like opens her top, and then it fades to black as he's looking at her.
Well, here's the thing. She says you have to choose me or the church, basically, in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then she takes her top off, and it fades to black, and then it fades again or fades in to Sam at the church. So presumably he chose the church, which I always see Sam as like this good boy, and that he
Sure.
would have slept with her. But I could definitely see how. Well, maybe he did. Because, I mean, she's right there.
It's the
And
way
she's got her top off.
the way the scene ended felt like, okay, it didn't explicitly point out that he did, but it felt like that could have been like them about to have sex, and then
Yeah.
you know,
It seemed to me like it was trying to say that Sam was a good boy and
yeah, okay.
went to the church.
Okay, that's fair. It's definitely I know what happens at some point, so I'll just like he's leaping around for a long time. Some of these wives,
I mean, the opening credits is just him making out with various women.
yeah, some of these wives and girlfriends of the people he's leaping into are going to keep throwing them at themselves at him. Eventually, you know what? He's going to give in because he's a weak man. And all he hears all the time is Al talk about all the ladies that he's spending time with.
He just tried to get Donna back in his life. How is that fair? What if Donna's waiting for him now?
That's true. He could be leaping back to find out that he's been married
It
for.
was the last leap. He wouldn't sleep with somebody right after that.
Okay, compelling point.
But maybe he did.
Maybe he did. Yeah. I will say the girlfriend's voice did irk me a little bit because it was like this over the top, like
It was very Marilyn.
yeah, it was like over the top, trying to sound kind of sexy and like ditzy and whatever, and it just kind of it felt a bit too caricature as opposed to like a real voice to me. But you know, that's a minor.
At least she wasn't
quibble.
boring though. The nun was boring.
That's fair. I don't think the show so far has got a track record of like poor female characters, but I think this episode has a record of poor female characters because I don't think either one of them are that engaging.
No, I like I mean, last one was all right.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
Terry Hatcher was all right. Maybe
what,
the other girl was a bit ditzy.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying this episode's kind of guilty of it. I'm not saying there's a trend in the show of that though.
Yeah,
I think
I like the females and females. I like the women in the pilot episode too.
yeah, the wife in the first one was fine, and Terry Hatcher last episode was. But hell, even the like the comic relief woman from last episode was funny. Like I thought she was good in her role. You know, she was good. Her and her like jock boyfriend made me laugh a lot. So yeah, it's not always about being a deep, like thoughtful character. It's just about being entertaining sometimes.
I love Al in the episodes where he gets to watch a sporting event for Sam, because I mean it was really fun to watch him go like go like coaching him through the baseball stuff, and in this one he got to be in the ring with him. It was kind of fun. I like that stuff.
Yeah, I think what's funny is that like I needed like Al's reaction in the baseball and that, because I don't think I'd have remembered that if they fumble the ball like that technically, you can run, you can get a base. Like that's not something that I would have necessarily.
Needed a hit for the rules.
Yeah. Like I mean, I understand the rules of baseball well enough, but like that's one of those like things like if they just drop the ball, you can literally use that as a chance to run. So maybe
that's why all the kids in like Little League, they all just bunt, right?
Yeah. So it's strategical, just enough to get to first base and no more.
Yep.
Yeah. But hey,
maybe they do that in pro baseball. I don't watch it, so.
I bet they probably do when it strategically makes sense. If they've got like just enough of a lead that all they need to do is try and like keep the lead.
Honestly, the pitchers are probably so fast, like nothing bunts off. It's all just.
Yeah.
It'll all go at least like 300 feet if it just touches a bat after a throw like that.
Yeah. I love how this one's turned into us talking about baseball.
Baseball, the other most boring topic on earth.
Do you know what? I'll say this for baseball. It's not two teams just trying to go in the opposite direction to a goal or a net of some kind, so therefore, inherently, I think it's more interesting than most other sports. Most. Not all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That does eliminate a lot of sports.
It does, yeah. All those ones where it's just teams running back and forth, yeah. Like, yeah. I don't get it. It's boring as shit.
Boxing, though. Actually, I don't really like watching boxing, except in movies.
Yeah, I don't really like
people get
boxing
hurt.
either.
I don't like watching people get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah,
Too much empathy.
But boxing is... like, I'm not going to preach against it or anything, but I do ultimately think it's a bit silly that people are punching each other in the head. Like, you know.
But I love Creed. What a great movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I like sports movies that are based on all the sports that I don't like, which is most of them. So, you know. I love the Mighty Duck trilogy. Don't seem to catch me watching ice hockey.
When I was young and a young Canadian Tara, I watched ice hockey. That was it.
Eons ago.
I have no idea what's going on with hockey now. Is it in season? I don't know. It's cold. Probably.
Why is it ever cold? It's an ice rink. You could have that in the summer.
I feel like ice hockey was around before ice rinks.
True.
When you just had to wait for the lake to freeze over.
So some real Canadian coming out of you here. Anywho, we've veered wildly off topic here. Which I think is to say that I don't think the episode maybe presents me with as much interesting things to talk about. You know? I suppose it is notable that it did tie into a real world event again with the bet at the end with the Muhammad Ali thing, whereas, you know, we had the Watergate thing last episode. So because I don't expect them to do that every episode for the rest of the show. I assume that has to like sort of become more sporadic, you know, at a certain point. But yeah. I do think that because we're at the early part of season 1, that they're probably hammering that home right now, because like, oh, we're really making it clear what time period we're in each week by having a thing.
Well, also, I mean, he's only traveling within his own lifetime, so it's a lifetime that the audience watching all remembers. Yeah. So it feeds on that nostalgia thing that, you know, it's always been around.
Yeah, either the people writing the show were kids during this time period, or they're old enough that they were, you know, already adults. So
yeah, it just reinforces that in the beginning that Sam hates the 70s, hates California in the 70s. He just, because when he realizes where he is and stuff and what time or what year it is, he's got like this reaction of gross. Sacramento 74. I can't remember the year exactly, but
yeah, 74. Yeah.
Oh, sweet, nailed it. Yeah.
And he's doing his jogging whilst holding bricks as part of his training.
At least we didn't have to watch him drink eggs, raw eggs.
Oh, true, yeah. Although there is one point where he's just having a conversation with Al, and they're in like some sort of derelict, homeless-looking part of the city where he's just like on a couch that's like sitting in the, you know, like, yeah, this is exactly what I picture when I think of 70s and 80s America. I just think of these like derelict places because that's what movies used to show me all the time.
Well, it was the rise of the indie film. So you didn't get the glossy Hollywood anymore.
Yeah, well, let's be honest, this is a cheaper location to shoot in, I imagine, than anywhere notable.
Yes, a couch.
Yes. A couch in an alleyway. There we go. There's our set for the day. This will do the job. Oh, dear. So, yeah. It is interesting because obviously one of the points the news show brought up, which by the way got renewed just like yesterday at the time of recording this.
I know, so exciting.
So one of the things that the news show brought up with the boxer that you sort of mentioned earlier was the idea that when he gets into the boxer's body, because it's the boxer's body that's like trained and conditioned to take the hits, and like, yeah, he doesn't have the mental knowledge and the psychology of like doing it and the tactics, but his body does have the muscle memory and has been like conditioned to take hits because it's been beat up a lot. They do kind of point out in this one that because this guy's been just taking dives for like a year, he's not really been training properly and he's not really been fighting properly. So he does have to. Looks
so pathetic in the ring with the guy just sparring with him.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad you. Yeah, there's a scene earlier on where to train, because he's obviously fighting for the chapel, the money for the chapel, that he trains with a priest, and there's like 8 nuns like on the ringside, and like they're all sort of cheering him on, and the priest like beats the shit out
These
of him.
nuns love a good fight.
Oh, these nuns are so into into a knockout. They love it.
Yeah.
It's not very religious of you, Mary.
They'll just pray for forgiveness. That's how it works.
Forgive me, Father, for I cheered and said, "Knock that son of a bitch's head off."
Draw blood. I want to see blood.
I took pleasure in a man's pain. Yeah, that was a funny scene, actually. That was probably one of the highlights of the whole episode, was that scene, because it was just so absurd seeing this visual of like the rings surrounded by nuns in the wall.
It is a pretty complex plot, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think that's maybe the sad thing about it, is there's a lot going on, but I feel like it doesn't add up to much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ultimately I kind of feel like, yeah, there's all these elements, but I don't really feel like even the fact that him and his girlfriend like are dreaming of opening a donut shop is like really specific. But
Yeah.
like, why is there not a scene of like maybe like in their spare time they could be like try to perfect their donut recipe or something, so that, you know, maybe like one of their scenes where they're talking, they've got like donuts out and they're trying donuts and they're saying, "Hey, trainer man, try a donut." I don't know.
Because boobs.
Because what?
Because boobs. Because they wanted to put more boobs in the scenes instead of her baking.
She could have them out while she's baking.
I guess.
I don't know if that makes it more clean or less clean, but I don't know. There you go. That's my thoughts. That's my thoughts on episode 4, Quantum Leap. It's just a so-so episode. Like, I think this was a more of a downbeat episode than the last two, but
Yeah, I probably like it the least out of the first 3 anyway. The
that's
second one I like just a skosh more than the next one.
That's fine. That's fine. I realize that you like to be more positive, so you saying you like something the least is the most negative I'm going to get out of you. I accept that.
Can't help it, I'm Canadian. Hiding in California.
Canadian?
Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know how they came up with the name Canada?
You've told me this joke before, but go on.
They wanted to be like the USA and get 3, just like a 3-letter acronym. So they get all the founders of Canada, put a bunch of letters in a hat, and the first one draws CA, the next one draws NA, the last one draws DA.
So it was supposed to be CND, but unfortunately the dialect transformed it into Canada.
That's our story.
That actually is what it's abbreviated to when you're like, if you're saying like Canadian dollars, it'll say CND next to the dollar
you
sign.
got the vowels.
Yeah.
All right, what's coming up next time?
So yeah,
I'm so embarrassed about that joke.
at the end of the episode, he's pulled all this off and he jumps to. He's basically in a pigsty. Like that's he's standing in a pigsty, and then of course I'm going to tell you what's coming next via IMDb. So it's called "How the Tess Was Won." That's a good title because it gives me like, okay, he's going to have to win over a woman named Tess, and it's a play on words. It's from August 1956, so we're going back to the 50s, and here's the description. Sam finds himself as a veterinarian who has to compete as a cowboy to win the heart of a cowgirl heiress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you just like not saying anything because you've seen the episode? You don't want to spoil anything?
I mean, I don't want to spoil things. It's a fun episode. I think it's a little cliche, but it's fun.
Okay.
It's a bit like a kind of an old trope. Got to win a girl with a contest. You know, stupid.
Yeah. I guess we're starting with the simpler plots, although I say that after this episode, which was not simple. I mean, it had a lot of different tropes in it, but it was they were really mashed together in a weird way. But hey,
Yeah.
There you go. That is our thoughts on episode 4 of Quantum Leap. So let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. You can like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications. All of that does help, as does, of course, going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support us on a monthly basis and help keep all the content coming. And of course, that is the show. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time when we leap into another episode. Keep watching Quantum Leap, and I really like Sam. I can't wait to see him get home someday.